when you look at the real estate market between UK and Canada, because you're in both those markets and whatever other markets you might be in, I'm curious as to what you see, given data, given what you're kind of experiencing and talking to different investors in UK and Canada. What are you seeing as a difference? Like, you look at Canada and everything's a housing bubble. When you look in the UK, everything's a housing bubble. Like, everybody's in a housing bubble. But how do you, because you're kind of behind the scenes, you're looking at a lot of different portfolios, or you are seeing and talking to different investors, what is some of the things that you're noticing?
So, by the way, also in Israel, it's the same bubble.
Sure. Okay, Israel too.
Bubble. So I think in the real estate industry, it should be always a long-term game. So you need to
Yes.
take a look historically and also for the future. And the best thing with real estate is that people need houses, like they need to live in houses. So I think that the demand for houses will remain forever.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this is something for me that puts some confidence that that the foundation of this industry is there to stay. Now there are times that are more volatile. I think in Canada is even more. So in the UK, like if we look back for the recent years, like it's quite stable, although there are some forecasts that might start declining now, but you can never know. Like there are also forecasts that it can start going up now with interest rates perhaps decreasing. But all in all, I think what we see from our users that there are the property investors more cautious, but they don't stop looking for opportunities because they are like, some of them understand that now perhaps it's the time to buy, or this is the time to find the right opportunities. In the UK also the refinancing is more difficult. I'm not so involved in this area right now in Canada, but I believe also perhaps in Canada. So basically it's also stressed a bit the landlords, and some of them consider to sell their properties. But I don't think it's the majority. So I think all in all, the experienced landlords will look at this time to find opportunities, and they are here to stay for the long-term game. But again, I think we can never know. But I think that the foundation of the industry is robust. So.
Mm-hmm. What's the difference, when you look at and I'm not familiar at all with Israel and what they do in housing, but I am curious, what are your interest rates? Do you buy a home the same as you do, or do you invest in real estate similar to what you do in the UK or Canada, or how does it differ?
I think it's quite similar.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you like the interest rates also quite similar. In Israel, you have you can actually separate your loan for different sub loans or something. So you can some proportion, with fixed rates, some proportion like linked to the inflation, and other like to foreign currency, etc. So you can basically perhaps distribute the risk a bit of increasing rates, etc. But all in all, the rates are quite the same. And I find it quite similar to the UK, what's going on now in Israel. So we had, many years of, price, like the house prices were increasing a lot, and now it's becoming stable. Like the investors actually look at the market, and didn't decide what is the best time now to buy again. But I think they find new opportunities right now, because there are areas that for the long term they will grow, and I think perhaps now it's opportunity to buy. So I think it's quite similar, and this is what's nice about real estate. This is also for an opportunity for us, like for Lendlord and for proptech as an industry, because real estate is quite like acting quite similar in many territories.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have a technology or a product that basically in terms of scale, you can, for us to start something in Canada in terms of technology, it was not so difficult. We just needed, like the code was there, the functionality was quite similar. We just needed to change some of the terminology, some of the rules, but basically it's quite the same in each territory. Property investors investing in property.
When you look at what's going on in the world today, I know one of the things that we see a lot of in Canada, and I know it to a degree it's certainly happening across the world. Certainly in the UK, we see a lot of political divisiveness, a lot of polarity. Some really big uncertainty of what's going on in the real estate market and what's going on even economically at a global level. Do you have a view of that? I mean, or are you just going, I'm going to focus on the data, I'm going to focus on building this business, I'm just going forward? Do you have any outlying, I guess, is there some underlying concerns that you have that is having you touch the brake? Or, you're not seeing it that way given where you are and you're just going forward full throttle kind of thing?
So, I try to focus on the technology, and I think that eventually we don't have control of perhaps we have, but all like if I look at myself, on the politics, and I agree that like in many areas over the world, like it's now like more like extreme, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
And the uncertainty is also, it's not just the economic, but also like the politic side of in many areas, um, also in the UK, in Israel, I think Canada as well. So it's something that it's a global trend. But for me, like I need to manage and basically lead the tech company. And I think that if we focus on the right industry and focus on product, like to basically to develop the best product in an industry that, as I mentioned before, like has like robust and strong foundations, then you are basically, I would say safer, like more like basically in a safe place. Um,
We're seeing here is what's starting to happen given interest rates, given inflation. We're certainly starting to hear more stories about motivated vendors, motivated sellers who are feeling the economic pressure of rising costs, rising mortgage payments. And so we're starting to see a uptick in the listings that were once not there. We're starting to see all of a sudden supply come on the market, not even close to being enough to meet demand, but it's obvious that there is an uptick in specific regions. Now, having said all of that, something you said earlier is that in these markets, the investors that you're dealing with are slowing down, maybe being a little bit more cautious, but they're being mindful of the opportunities that are presenting themselves. Did I hear that correctly?
that's right. That's definitely correct. And I also agree with you that there are landlords that let's say, that's it. I'm done. And because of the rising of cost, the interest rates, they're in the UK, they are struggling to refinance their properties. I don't know if you're familiar, but in the UK, you need to refinance after 2, 3, or 5 years if you're on a fixed rate. And most of the products, the mortgage products, are on fixed rates. So then now they realize their monthly costs can jump, hundreds of pounds.
Yes.
Um, and yeah, so it's, but for as I said, if you look at the long term, so interest rates are now higher than usual, but we had like 10 years of low interest rate, and this might return at some point. If you analyze potential return, even if you use Lendlord for that, you can see that, okay, perhaps I will not earn, so my cash on cash even can be negative in the first year or the first 5 years, but what will happen in 10 years or in 20 years, even if I have these assets that basically provide ongoing income when the interest rate will basically, be lower.
Mhm.
So
I think, for me, when we look at working with literally thousands of real estate investors over the years, and on an annual basis, we're talking to many, many investors, in Canada, when property prices started to really escalate 21, 22, everybody jumped on the bandwagon. Then, of course, interest rates went up, and then everybody got caught, or not everybody, many got caught going, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to close on this property, or I'm going to have to make a mortgage payment on this property. And if their only plan was, to have equity appreciation and then assign that deal and get out of it, and or sell it straight out, many didn't have a plan to hang on to it.
yeah,
Yet now they have to close on it. They have to figure out how to close on it, and some of them are just not. So we're starting to see an uptick in those kind of properties coming back onto the market, kind of a distressed sales point of view. And I think this is important for listeners that are real estate investors to consider the opportunities that when you have the education, when you have the data, when you're making decisions that are driven by data and not emotional, and really looking for cash flow, looking for the right opportunities, or even creating I always go back to, there's lots of problems right now, and there's many more to come. And if you can solve problems, then you're going to do very, very well in real estate. And then what I like about Lendlord is what you're saying and what you're sharing with us today is that now you also have the additional technology, the tool of technology, to use and to leverage that technology to manage the decisions that you're making. So, anyways, I look at it all right now, and again, it is a little bit uncertain. It can even be a little confusing, but you have to stay grounded in that. Well, everybody else is hanging a right and getting the heck out of real estate because it's just crazy and there's a bubble. Those that stay grounded in the data are actually going to follow the path and go, no, this is a time to go against the grain and actually continue to invest in real estate really thoughtfully and mindfully based on data, and then using, again, the right technology and the right tools.